Well, in fact, they are linked from the very beginning, because in 2015, when we agreed with the Sustainable Development Goals, that is an agenda for sustainable development for humanity, for all countries, we also agreed in Paris to fight climate change. So from the very beginning, they were connected. What is ironical is that, for example, SDG number 2 is to eradicate hunger and all forms of malnutrition, that I consider the base for all others. If you have hunger, we will not be sustainable. So, ironically, since then, hunger is going up. We have been able to pull numbers of hungry people in the world since in 1990, when it achieved around 1 billion people. We pull it down in 2014 below 800 million. Now it's up to 821. The last 3 years, it went up. And basically, it went up for two things that are connected: conflicts, war, etc., and impact of climate change. And when both overlap, like happens in the Sahel or in the dry corridor in Central America, we see a lot of things getting together to move people around, to intensify the conflict. By the way, we in FAO, with the World Food Program, we address all the countries in conflict, village per village, twice a year. And we provide those numbers to the Security Council. Security Council uses as proxy of conflict number of hungry people. Food insecurity is connected, linked mathematically to war, to conflict. When you intensify the war, the conflict, hunger is there and increasing. For the future, what we see is more and more the role of the climate change promoting conflict. This will increase food insecurity in the world. Basically for three reasons. One is that we will not be able to produce enough for the growing population we expect. We will not be able to produce enough food for them. Yields will be dropping. Even in irrigated areas, we are expecting all cereals to be affected with low level of production and erratic production, also due to the droughts and floods that alternated. But also because the food produced will be less nutritious. It is proven now that with the level of CO2 that we have, the wheat has less proteins, less minerals like zinc, for example, vitamin A, that is vital for us. So nutrition will be increasing. There is an estimation from the World Bank that the nutrition among children below 5, that's crucial for the development, future development of a child, will be 20% less possible. So it's a great impact in the future generations. We are destroying future. But also prices will be up. Estimations we made shows that price of corn, for example, will be up for 30%, 1/3. Wheat will double the price. Future. So more and more people will not be able to afford the food they need. And let me say that this brings up, I was looking for the video, and amazing you saw that 9,000 years ago we started to farming. And we farmers know what that means, Mr. Gore. So farmer means that you don't need to day after day go after your food. You don't need to wake up and try to collect or hunt something to eat that day. You produce it. Was the big change of humanity. This was the beginning of civilization. Now we are bringing back this uncertainty that we don't know if we will have our food available. This is what is the change. It's a big change for humanity, for our future.
So, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but my colleagues tell me that about half the world's food is produced by family farms, and then the other half is by more industrial processes and more the bigger concerns. But that also means that a lot of food is exported, right? It is an extremely important commodity. Will that be a security issue, you think? If food becomes scarce, prices become high, countries or the food-producing countries turn more in on themselves and consolidate what they have rather than export? This is a question that we've gotten from some of our viewers. They are worried about the security situation for food.
That could be a tendency. That could be a tendency. The same way that we are rejecting migration, we could start to, let's say, try to keep the food for ourselves, thinking that that will solve the problem. It will not solve the problem. We need the trade to provide food for the world. Trade is a good thing in providing exchange and be more efficient in production. But on the same, on the other hand, nowadays we based our food basically on commodities. 4 products that are maize, soybeans, rice, and wheat respond for 80% what we eat around the world. We need to diversify this. This is something that helps to cope with climate change, diversification of production, and more local production of vegetable, fruits, etc. will help also. Because the paradox is we are not only facing hunger nowadays. The epidemic that's out of control is obesity. Obesity is going rapidly, so rapidly, that we risk to have more obese people than hungry people in the world. By the way, if I ask in which continent obesity is growing more rapidly, I think that I would not get any answer for Africa. But it's there. It's in Africa that we have hunger and obesity growing faster. It's the products that we are eating are not healthy. And climate change has a lot to do with this. I would choose one of the others there, because I believe that what we are facing now is a lacking of funds, financial constraint. If you take, for example, I'll step again on Mr. Gore. The simple things to do is plant a tree. FAO has a project to what we call Great Green Wall. It's to plant forests in the borders of the desert. More than 20 years that we have this project in the Sahel. And we don't have money. It's a very simple project. We collect the seeds from the trees that are local, that survive in the border of the desert. We multiply them, and then using women, local people, we plant the trees. We don't have fund for that project. And I can tell you many stories like that we don't have fund to mitigate or to adapt. And it's very costly. We estimate that adaptation for agriculture sectors, but include crops, animals, and forests, would cost basically $7 billion at least dollars per year. And mitigation would cost 4 to 5 times more than that. So talking about $35–40 billion. What we have now, the Green Climate Fund, yeah, $10 billion in 2015. Not even we put the money there, only about 6 to 7, and now it has less than $2 billion to finance all adaptation and mitigation in the world that costs basically at least 50 billion a year. If we don't have the funding, we will not be able to do anything. Small farmers are very poor. They cannot afford to adapt. They will not survive just that. They will move to the cities and will complicate even more the problem.
You sound like you're worried.
Very worried.
Yes.
Because we are seeing this rural-urban migration again, back again. These people that's coming from Guatemala, they are rural people, most of them, that moved to the city, didn't find a way to survive them, and they are trying to find a way to survive. Our last research in Africa about migration, we found that those that move from the countryside to the city and cannot find a job, what's the majority, move out of the country, move to Europe. Young people especially. If they can cross the desert of the Sahara, it's not the Mediterranean that will stop them. If we want to stop migration, we need to develop there, in their countries. Rural development is something that we forgot to talk about. That's what we need, and that needs money. Investment is all about that.